What's up? I hope you're at least fairly decent. Are you proud of me? I'm filming inside.
Yeah, she's kind of an up-and-coming YouTuber. Kind of
Kinetic
cool.
Kel?
Kinetic Kel. Why, you know her?
So, I worked at this job that had an insanely high turnover rate. But there was a bizarre pattern that for every 6 people that quit, the one person that did make it out the other side of training would end up being with the company for like damn near a decade. Some absurd, raging outburst from our manager, usually based in no semblance of rationality, that we had come to expect at that point would usually dictate whether a newbie was thick-skinned enough to stick it out or not. And no, I don't think it's because some people are just more equipped naturally to handle like a hardcore work environment. I think it directly correlates to something that I've dubbed the shitty childhood to shitty job pipeline, and how facing adversity in your adolescence can lead to learned helplessness, or the belief that you genuinely can't do anything to alter your circumstances, and overall vocational complacency. So obviously, if you're a kid growing up in shitty circumstances, you're bound to develop some coping mechanisms that might help you survive childhood, but are ultimately going to be a detriment to you in adulthood. These could include emotional numbing, avoiding conflict, self-sacrifice, and overall just like enduring discomfort for survival. Alrighty, very special welcomes to my guest, Ellea, one of my childhood best friends.
Hi, I'm Ellea, and I've known Kelly since I was little. I feel like the coping mechanisms that I developed as a child kind of went away when I started working, because I started to use work as a coping mechanism because I also started working so young. That was like my ticket out. Working was always my ticket out, because I mean, you know, I graduated high school early. I started working full time, like as soon as I possibly could, as soon as I started driving, basically, so that I could save enough money to move out of my household. So, I mean, I definitely feel like working became my coping mechanism as much as it became like the thing I'm most dependent on for like my personal happiness.
And let's not underestimate how if you grew up hearing your parents scream at each other all the time, of course you're basically being primed to tolerate a toxic work environment. Like, toxic work environments directly mirror patterns of control or manipulation learned in troublesome childhoods, which is going to make that environment feel normal to those who may have previously experienced a more hostile environment, right?
I feel like my upbringing definitely prepped me to deal with the toxic work environment, because I was like, well, I already got it at home, so like, what's every other place I'm in, basically? It still sucks, and I can recognize when it's a toxic work environment, but I feel like I'm more likely to just be like, you know what, like that's just how it is, because it's already kind of what I'm used to.
Additionally, people with unresolved self-esteem issues from their childhood are going to be more likely to tolerate poor working conditions because they don't feel like they deserve better, or they're just too exhausted to find alternatives.
My mom, she was always trying to tell me that anywhere I go, there's going to be somebody worse. If I leave this job because I don't get along with somebody or toxic work environment, the next place I go to is just going to be worse. It's going to be worse if I keep running, and like, there's no fix for anything. So like, in a weird way, it almost prepared me better for what was next, but also like, it shouldn't have been that conversation. When I was working at the last restaurant that I was like really happy at, there were quite a few times where I was a lead cook, and there were these people that like would not listen to me and would straight up just be like, well, you're a girl, like you're a girl and you're 19 or 20, like why would I listen to you, why would I? And I'm just like, I got this position because I know what I'm doing, you need to like listen to me. And those were definitely moments when I was like, wow, I deserve better. Or when I was working at Trader Joe's and experienced like workplace harassment and said something, and they just didn't even care, like did not do anything about it. Like, I deserve better.
My father was gracious enough to share his insight on this topic. He is a former drug and alcohol counselor as well as interventionist. Ironic, I know.
So, when I was 30 years old, I realized that you pick your boss. And up to that point, I'd always picked people who didn't promote me, who didn't value me, who lied to me. And so what I discovered was, just like the relationships in your life, you choose to put these people in your life. So I've discovered some ways to kind of screen that behavior. Is if you like the job, if you like the person, they're probably not good for you. If they lie to you constantly, you're never going to have a good relationship with these people. So if they say they're going to give you a review in 90 days and they don't give you a review in 90 days, the writing's on the wall. Move on.
They're in the liar box.
They're in the liar box. Some other things, like if they play favorites at work and promote other people around you because they have special relationships with them. That's not always a good thing either, and that kind of tells you right where you need to know about whether or not you need to get out of there. So that's my input on employee relationships. Here's the thing, those also play in personal relationships. My rule is, if somebody lies to you and they can't get out of the liar box, you can't have a relationship with them, because you're constantly in non-reality land.
I think that as long as you recognize that you deserve better, that something's a problem, you are absolutely capable of changing your future accordingly. I don't think that anyone's condemned because they, were raised a certain way. I think that it's definitely really difficult to get out of a cycle, especially if you were taught to feel that way or think that way from such a young age. But the more that I kind of feel stuck in these places where I'm like, this job doesn't treat me right, and I just have to suck it up and like obey their orders or whatever so I can get through the job until I find something better or whatever, the more I talk about those things with people that are like a lot older than me, especially in the same field of work that I do, they're always like, you don't have to like take their bullshit. Like, you don't have to. Well, now that I'm back in a restaurant, I realize like I am super passionate about this, and now this is my career path. But it's hard picking what you want to do. It's scary when you're young, because for so many years you're like, I'm so young, I don't have to think about it yet. I'm so young, I have so much time to figure out what I want to do. And it's like, girl, it's creeping up on you. Like, here's a good point that, like, even though it is maybe negative, it's helpful. And it's that regardless of if you are stuck in a job or feel stuck in a job where it might be like a toxic work environment, or it's just not really working out for you very much, maybe you just don't like the job or whatever it is, it's important to go through jobs that you don't like to know what you do like. It's the same thing with like dating people and going through relationships to find what you actually do and do not want in a relationship. You kind of have to do the same thing with jobs. So it's like, if you're in a position where you're working somewhere and you don't love it, or you absolutely hate it, just it's the experience that you need so that when you do get that job that you really love, you don't take it for granted.
All this to say, your shitty childhood does not have to dictate your vocational path. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.